Sean concert at Fillmore with two of his friends, okay? And I've been given warning, and I have to be there at a certain time, and we have to get in there. And by the way, I've never even listened to Big Sean. I have no idea. But I know he's fantastic, and they're all excited to go. And I'm maybe I'm dressed a little Big Sean as possible. I know his jacket's definitely coming off. But Eileen Higgins, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to cross the bridge. I always take Mayor Regalado that when I come across, I bring my passport, and he gives me diplomatic immunity. I go over to the city of Miami, and of course my friend Christine Flores, who's been a great friend and a great supporter of me for so long. Thank you so much. Usually what's funny, I've been traveling all over the state, and I've been talking to different people, different groups, and let me tell you, it's been an incredible, amazing experience, because questions you get, the people you meet, you never know, and the locations are unbelievable. But what I usually do is I kind of like to tell a little bit about myself, who I am, a little about what we've done in Miami Beach, and maybe a touch on a future vision for Florida. And as I've said, and I'll say it again, I'm not sure if I'm going to run for governor of Florida, but I am sure of what we need to do in Florida to make our state a great state, a better state, a state that has more opportunity for everybody. So just to let you know, I grew up in South Florida. I actually grew up in Hollywood. And went to public school down in South Florida, so I'm a big champion of public school. I did okay for myself. And then I went up to college up north. I went to the great U of M. Yeah, University of Michigan. There you go. Okay, I know a lot of hurricanes in here. But as far as I know, the U of M is the University of Michigan. And I majored in political science. And I gotta tell you, in a million years, I never knew or thought I'd use my political science degree. And finally, I've used my political science degree. But I love studying political science, and I came back down to South Florida. And I literally, like a lot of folks, didn't know what I wanted to do, wanted to go in business, had ideas. And I literally answered an ad in the Miami Herald for my first real serious job. By the way, that was the days when people actually read the Miami Herald. Remember that? And I literally answered an ad in the Herald where Royal Caribbean was looking for an electric to go work on a cruise ship. And to me, that was the most exciting thing in the world to do. I went down to Royal Caribbean. It was a tiny company. They had 3 or 4 little ships. And they said, we're looking for somebody that has great public speaking experience, that's fantastic, that we can put on a ship. And I said, I'm a guy, I'm a great speaker, I've done it forever. Thank God they did no due diligence, okay? And they offered me the job. The next thing you know, I was working on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. And for me, it was the craziest experience because, you graduate college, all your friends are working at these great jobs and great companies, and Philip is like Julie on Love Boat. And my first couple of nights on board the ship, they gave me this little cabin. Have you cruised before? Any cruising? Okay, well, when you work on a cruise ship, especially in those days, the cabin I had no porthole and it was way below the waterline, okay? And I was terrified, and I kept thinking to myself, this is the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. At 22 years old, I've committed career suicide, and all I could think was, how do I get myself off this cruise ship? Like, do I call the Coast Guard? And if I call the Coast Guard, how much do they charge to get you off? Because I was so scared, and I remember thinking I had $500 in the bank. I don't even know what they charge. Probably not enough money. Woke up the next morning, and I thought, okay, I got to get through it. I got to give this speech. I'm going to go to the lounge. It was the Oklahoma Lounge. And I'm sure there'll be like 15, 20, 30 people there. I'll talk about the ports of call. I'm wearing my Royal Caribbean uniform. I'm going to the lounge. I walk into this lounge. It's literally standing room only. There's 1,500 cruise passengers in there. And I'm thinking to myself, I am going to die. This is just the worst feeling in my entire life. And the cruise director was one of these guys that literally, when you look up in the encyclopedia, cruise director, British, suave, gray hair. He's like James Bond. He's been on sea for years. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the foremost, greatest lecturers in the history of the cruise industry. And this is my first week on the ship. Invites me up. I start chatting. I start speaking. I'm frozen. My arm is stuck to my side. Thinking to myself, I can't even know if my arm works anymore. And the next thing, other people are listening to me. And I started to crack a couple of jokes. People started to laugh. And I kind of fell into this great industry, the cruise ship industry. Got off the ship and started a little company on Miami Beach called Onboard Media. And it grew into a very large company, one of the largest partners of the cruise industry in the world. We sold the companies to Louis Vuitton. And the whole time I always said to myself, I want to give back. I want to be in public service, but I just didn't know where. I didn't know how. I didn't know where it was going to come from me. And I developed a great friendship with a guy you may have heard of called Bill Clinton. And I was fortunate enough to be able to travel around the world with President Clinton for many, many years. laugh. When I sold my companies, I was no longer president. It was around the same time that he was no longer president, so I always said we get two ex-presidents. And I learned a lot, and I got very inspired. And I thought, you know what, I want to run, I want to do something. I saw the great things President Clinton did, and I realized right in my own backyard there was an opportunity in Miami Beach. Love Miami Beach, but I saw a city that was kind of embroiled in what I call analysis paralysis, where things weren't getting done. And meanwhile, we were experiencing something which you all know called sea level rise, where we had major flooding on our streets during sunny days, and cars were being ruined, and no solutions in sight. And the city was kind of, consultants were hiring consultants that were hiring consultants that were hiring consultants. And I said, I'm going to run for mayor. And of course, everyone said, oh my God, how is this guy going to run for mayor? No one knows who he is. He's the successful entrepreneur, but the city is over 50% Hispanic. How is he going to win? Bueno habla español fluentemente, soy luego. And I started campaigning, and they said, my God, he speaks Spanish. Okay, he could be a threat at this point. And we ran a very, very unconventional campaign. I knocked on 6,000 doors across Miami Beach. Literally, I broke into every condominium building in Miami Beach you could possibly think of. I evaded security. I went to the top of buildings, and I literally blew out 2 pair of Nike sneakers because I don't remember Nike Air Max. Literally blew out Air Maxes. I did so much walking and knocking. Single-family homes. I ate more white flies than probably anybody in the world when you're out there in the summer knocking on doors. And I said to myself, if I don't win this election, I know one thing I can do. I'll be the best cat burglar in the history of the because I know how to get into every building now. But the main issue we had, of course, was sea level rise. And I said, listen, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna come up with ideas. We're gonna make movement. We're gonna show that we can do something because all roads underwater, Sunset Harbor, West Avenue, it became a media frenzy. I ran a TV commercial that was kind of fun on Miami Beach, literally where it shows me paddling down Alton Road, and I'm on a kayak, and I have my boxer dog Earl with me, and I said, some people want to be the mayor of Venice. I want to be the mayor of Miami Beach, and the water's coming down on us. I turned to my dog Earl, and I said, paddle, Earl, paddle, and he looks up at me at the right moment and cries. It was perfect. Really on cue. He thinks he got me elected, but it's not true. And that went pretty strong all across the beach. And then, of course, I won. In 4-person ways, I was very fortunate to win in a landslide with over 50% in 4 people in the race. But now we had to get busy. Now we had to actually do what we said we were going to do. So we went out, we got all our engineers together, and we started raising roads. We started putting in pumps. We started changing building codes, raising seawalls. And we started to make great progress in our city. Areas that were flooding all of a sudden became dry. And my funny story, of course, you can imagine, when you're digging up these roads, the traffic, and Christine, you know this, is tremendous because you're disrupting the roads. Everyone's like, fix the flooding, but you're like, okay, I'll tell you what, if everyone would like to leave the city for 6 months, we'll get it done with no disruption, but people have to live here. My mom was driving down Alton Road one day, and she said, let me tell you something. You have so much traffic on your road. If you were running again, she goes, I wouldn't vote for you. She's smart. I said, well, what are we to do? We got to fix the problem. But we did it. We went forward, and now we're doing the entire city, different areas that are low-lying, and we're working on it. We had a police department where the tail was wagging the dog. Horrible Memorial Day shootings, where an African American with 130-something shots into his car during Memorial Day. And I made a pledge. I said, if I'm elected mayor, we're going to reform the police department. We're going to change leadership. And I'll tell you what I learned about that is that if you say that to the police, you will not get their endorsement. It's very interesting. And when I won, we hired an organization out of Washington, D.C. called PERF. We did a whole audit of our police department. And exactly what we thought, they said, you have no leadership. And myself, the city manager, we went out, we did a national search, and we came up and found the greatest police chief we ever possibly could hope for, Dan Oates, who was the former NYPD intelligence chief. He was the chief out in Aurora, Colorado during that horrible Batman incident, where President Obama said one of the greatest chiefs in America. We brought him in, and we brought in a number 2, the highest ranking African-American woman in the history of Miami Beach Police Department. And between the 2 of them, made all the changes. New captains, new majors. And slowly but surely, we've seen a major culture change in the police department of Miami Beach. Doesn't happen easy, doesn't happen quick, but we saw remarkable changes. So we attacked sea level rise. We're laughing, some people get swept into office. I kind of got floated into office. We literally went out and reformed our police department. and of course, doing other things in Miami Beach. But one of the things I'm most proud of that we've done in Miami Beach is our community came together and all our commissioners, and we passed the first minimum living wage ordinance in the history of the state of Florida. And I'll tell you one thing, you do that, you'll be sued by more people than you could ever imagine. I mean, we've been sued by the governor, by Publix, you name it, everyone's suing Miami Beach right now. And our first round of the court, we weren't successful. We're now going for the DCA, Third Court of Appeals, and we believe it's going to go all the way to the Florida Supreme Court, and I believe we will win there. But even if for some reason we aren't able to, what I'm pledging to do is a statewide referendum to make sure that we allow municipalities to decide and counties their own minimum living wage. By the way, let me say it this way, it's amazing. It's funny how it becomes a Democratic issue. And I say, this is not a Democratic issue. This is actually a Republican issue. My Republican friends will say, what are you talking about? I said, well, if you pay someone $8.10 an hour, you know they can't live. I mean, no one can live on $8.10 an hour. So who pays? Social services, the taxpayers pay. So to me, it's a taxpayer issue. Why are we allowing ourselves to subsidize these organizations, these companies, who are relying on the state of Florida for social services because at $8.10 an hour you can't survive? And someone will say, well, what about that McDonald's? How are they going to afford to operate? So listen, let me explain how that McDonald's works. It's not one McDonald's. It's 180 McDonald's owned by a private equity group out of Chicago, okay? And they love that Florida subsidizes everything that they do. And, you know, that's, to me, a few of the things that we've done in Miami Beach. We've changed the whole kind of culture of the customer service, making the residents feel more like customers, and a lot more. And, you know, people say, why don't you run for a third term? And I said, listen, everything that I pledged to do when I said I'm going to run for mayor and become mayor, we've either done, it's in process, or it's planned. And so that's why I decided not to run for a third term. And I said I'm going to explore around the state and see what other opportunities are out there for it. Last year was a heck of a year for all of us. We all wanted to kind of enroll at Clinton College, and instead we're at Trump University right now. And at the old TU, home of the Fighting Fraudsters, we know, we see what's going on. We're learning, what do you want to call it? Overpromising, never delivering 101. I mean, that's kind of the course we're in right now. I did everything in my power last year to work with Secretary Clinton. I was on TV nonstop, fighting a good fight. And I think I was the only Democrat that was always on Fox. Matter of fact, I wore my Kevlar vest. I'd go on Fox. I would take the bullets. But let me tell you something which is interesting. It's a really strong message here. In order for the Democrats to win statewide in 2018, those people that were watching me on Fox, a portion of them need to vote for us. Because it can't be about one side winning and another side losing. Everyone needs to win together. And in a purple state like Florida, if we think somehow, some way we're going to win because we're 100% right and they're 100% wrong, it's not going to happen. And we're only destined to follow in the unhappy path of the last 30 years of not winning a statewide election. So I believe that, yes, we're right on issues, but we have to be right on other things. We have to bring everyone together. Everyone in Florida needs to win at the same time. What's important in the state of Florida? Well, I can tell you one thing. The one thing everybody does want, they want business opportunities, they want entrepreneurship, they want jobs. They want to make their life better. You know, the governor and I don't agree on a lot of things, as you can tell. We've had a lot of fights publicly. But I believe Enterprise Florida, if run properly, makes sense. Maybe we call it Entrepreneur Florida, because I believe in building great entrepreneurial environments. So the millennials that grow up in our state don't leave our state. How do we do that? We do it by creating an ecosystem. You can't just bribe Google to come to Florida. You got to create the right university systems where every kid in Florida, if they can't afford to go to Florida college, that we make sure they can get there without having huge college debt. That's important. That's important for all of us in the state of Florida. And like I said, once again, that's a Republican issue. We're all on Team Florida. If you want to create that environment, you want Google to come here, you got to create the right environment for it. Silicon Valley to us is NASA. That's our Silicon Valley. With the privatization of space travel, we need to make NASA the place where it's connected to our universities. We have innovation zones. We don't want to be just known for the top tourism state in the country. We want to feel proud of Florida, that we're known for other things. Great environment, that we make sure that Lake Okeechobee is handled properly, that we have a reservoir so we don't have those algae blooms going out to the eastern part of our state. We want infrastructure. We want to connect all the cities in the state of Florida. And infrastructure brings jobs. And as we all know, trains or any of these various infrastructure projects are not Republican and they're not Democrat. Okay, no one asks if they're Republican or Democrat. They create great jobs and they create an ecosystem for our state, which is most important. You know, before I take Q&A, I just want to say this. Sometimes it's a popular statement, sometimes it's not a popular statement. But the Democratic Party has always been, it's supposed to be, the party of the working men and women. I think we should have candidates that have actually worked. Okay? It's probably a good idea. Okay? The second thing is that the Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of job creation. Well, we better have candidates that have actually created jobs. Because I can tell you all one thing, when you go to see a doctor, I believe you want to make sure he went to medical school. Okay? I think it's important. So the point is that the message of Donald Trump, we all know what Donald Trump's about, but there's a bigger message there. And if anyone thinks that the Donald Trump phenomenon is a one-off, I don't agree. I believe people want authenticity, they want realism, they don't want career politicians, they want people to get things done. And there's a lot to get done in the state of Florida that's good for Republicans and good for Democrats. And that's what we need to focus on in 2018. That's if we want to win a statewide election. Thank you very much.
I'll start with the first question, which is around the economy of the future, right? Kind of the jobs that don't necessarily exist today, but could or should. In the past year, we've heard lots of discussions about Lyft, Airbnb, Uber, self-driving cars. How do you see this sort of tax-sharing economy affecting the state of Florida? And then also, what kind of regulations might need to accompany them, either locally or through the state?
Great question. First of all, when Uber came to Miami, you know, I think I was the first mayor, we were the first commission to pass a resolution saying we want Uber. We need Uber. And of course, we were so fortunate that Uber came to Miami and Miami Beach. So there's no question about it that we want to become the innovative state. We want to create the ecosystem. And I think I touched on it a little bit, but you can't become, look at Israel, okay? Israel, a great book's called Startup Nation, okay? Israel has the greatest high-tech biotechnology startup culture there is. But it was created through their education. It was created through the culture. The speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. If you create a state where everyone's on Team Florida, and we're doing all the right things to not only have these companies start up, but have companies move to Florida, we'll create that right environment. Listen, the sharing economy is here to stay. Uber is a fantastic company. Hey, as much as I don't believe that Airbnb should be in residential areas where it is not legal, I do believe it's a fabulous company and it's a great organization. But the fact is that, you know, when you look at the Airbnb issue, is that you have people that buy homes, that buy apartments, that save up their entire lives, and the next thing you know, next to them, even though the zoning says it's not going to happen, they have an Airbnb right next to them. So for them, it's not a good thing. And as the mayor of Miami Beach, I listen to my customers, I listen to my residents, and our residents have told us we do not want it in our residential neighborhoods. It's okay in areas that are short term, but unfortunately for Airbnb is that they don't like that answer, and I understand it. When you have a $31 billion valuation, and major cities like Miami and London, and Barcelona, and San Francisco, and New York are barring you, what do you tell your investors? It's kind of a hard thing to be able to answer. So it's not about Airbnb, but it's about creating an innovative, exciting state where our education system is so tied in to creating the right environment for us to grow these companies. Right now, we're not there. And we want to be proud of our state. We want to be excited about it. And we just can't be excited about tourism. You know, we're great at growing oranges, but we need to start growing entrepreneurs. And I really believe that's the next thing we'll be doing.
Thank you for coming, Mayor Levine, and talking about education. So pre-K, many kids, especially less advantaged ones, don't have access to pre-K. and leaving them behind when they're most needed at that point in their lives. What's your opinion on pre-K education, including full-day programs, and how would you go about funding those programs if they were available?
Thank you, Christine. First of all, I think it's been proven that pre-K is so important to the development of any human being. That's crucial going forward. You know, the state of Florida is not a poor state. This happens to be a very successful, affluent state that has significant funding. The question is, where do you prioritize your funding? The governor is talking about reducing taxes on business leases for $300 or $400 million. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm in the business circles all over the world. And the last thing I've ever heard, I've never heard it in my entire life, is Florida's a high tax state. I've never heard that before. It's not. So in other words, what Florida is, it's a low tax state. So why would you need to be reducing taxes even more? Why wouldn't you want to fund programs that make the environment, the ecosystem, what I call Team Florida, everyone to have a better quality of life and greater opportunity? And I think it starts with the pre-K, and I think it goes all the way up. And I think education is the key. It's the key to everything you want to do. If we can build the right institutions with the right funding, we're going to be even that much more proud of the state of Florida.
So, yeah, thank you for that response. So we're here at the Downtown Dems meeting, so obviously everybody in the room, I think, would like to see more Democrats in office. But unfortunately, that's not the case right now in our cities and in Tallahassee. Since we don't have, more bipartisanship and more Democrats in office, how do we best manage as a party of underdogs to get some things accomplished? And where do you see opportunities in a one-party rule system?
I truly think as long as you only have one party dominating, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I think that it's like someone screaming a message into the Democrats' ears, and whether they listen to that message or not is going to be up to the Democratic Party. And the message is, Florida is a purple state. It's almost like they're screaming and screaming and screaming. Bernie Sanders lost Florida in the primary to Hillary Clinton, okay? Now, I love the idea of revolution, but unfortunately in South Florida, the term revolution doesn't usually seem like a really good idea. Matter of fact, especially when you're coming from Venezuela or Cuba, it hasn't worked out too well.
What about invasion?
Right, but the fact of the matter is that we need to do the social policies that we all agree on: minimum living wage, equal opportunity for everybody, increase in education. We don't want fracking. We want to make sure the environment is perfect. We need greater infrastructure, bigger jobs. I think we all agree on that. But to just wear that on your sleeve, and that's the reason why you're running, guess what? That's not enough. You don't win that way. That's not how Democrats win. You win with a message that everyone buys into, and that message is what's common for all of us. We all want better education. We all want better jobs. We all want greater entrepreneurial activity. We all want clean water. In other words, there's a bigger message there where not one side loses and one side wins. The message has to be, we all can win. That's the message the Democrats need to have in order to win the state of Florida. By the way, if you're living in California, you can have a different message. Fortunately or unfortunately, we're living in Florida, and this is a purple state. And I think that is a big message for all of us to really realize. So if you want to get things done, I think it's a good idea to have the candidates that how to get things done. And by the way, it can maybe appeal to everybody to win a statewide election. That's if you want to win.
I have a question. So, the next question is about immigration. Cities across the country have responded in all sorts of different ways to President Trump's insistence. Mr. 45. He shall not be named. But we've had numerous responses, particularly with his deportations and also his threats to cut off funding for sanctuary cities. Can you talk a little bit about how Miami Beach approached that and what worried them and didn't worry them? And then what do you think the implications for Miami-Dade County will be given the counties, their different response?
So, obviously, Miami Beach is a part of Dade County, so we don't control prisons. But in the same token, when Mayor Jimenez moved forward in that direction, we immediately passed a resolution unanimously in our city encouraging the county commission and the mayor to reconsider their position, because the city of Miami Beach is an open community, as you know. I always say that we don't have 90,000 residents, we have 90,000 mayors in the city of Miami Beach. And we made it very clear that we're an open city, and that whether it's LGBTQ rights or whatever it may be, we are welcome to everybody and anybody. But we're a part of the county, and being a part of the county, we don't have the ability to control certain things that we wish that we could. Listen, the bottom line is this. Every company and every organization has a formula that works for them. Coke has their syrup. It has worked for 100 years, whatever it is, and it works for them, Coca-Cola. The United States has its formula, and its formula is the American dream. That works for us. The American dream. When everyone feels that they can get a piece of the American dream, then our country works. It's exciting. But when people feel like they can't get the American dream, things break down. The Florida dream and the American dream are the same dream. Part of that dream is having our doors open, having our ability to allow people to come in and achieve success in the American dream. And I think I heard someone say that, you know, no one's breaking down China's door to get themselves a passport to live in China, okay? Right now. They all want to come to America. Everybody wants to be in America. So messing with the American dream is not a good idea. And as long as I'm the mayor of Miami Beach, we're going to make sure our city is the most open city there is, and I think that we are in Dade County. So.
Energy, so sunny Florida. States all across the country are taking strong action to reduce emissions and support renewable energy. California has a robust market for a residential solar and renewable portfolio. New York State has banned fracking and has created a series of market reforms to help meet on 50% of the renewable target. Florida, instead, has a monopoly power market that bans third-party solar and has no renewable portfolio standard. One of the sunniest states in our country. So what legislation in terms of renewable portfolio standards and clean energy do you support? What market reforms do you think would be appropriate to make any of this happen? And have you, would you accept donations from the NextEra PAC supported by the FPA?
Thank you, Christine. You know, I go back to the original statement, speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. If you believe in renewable energy, if you believe in the need to make our state resilient, if you believe that there is a great future in alternative energies like I do, whoever wins governor, if they have those beliefs, they're going to make sure that FP&L opens themselves up to all these various alternative fuels. It is a great business opportunity waiting to happen. We're called the Sunshine State for a reason, okay? We have sunshine. So the fact of the matter is that why are we not harnessing that sunshine? China right now is out there becoming the leader right now in alternative energies and sunshine and solar and so on and so forth. The state of Florida naturally should own this market. But once again, it goes back to the whole thing. It goes back to universities, innovation zones, ecosystems, getting great companies to come in and focus on that. And I think it comes down to oversight. If you have the right leader in place and understands that vision for the state of Florida, then they will make FP&L dance to their tune. But in a one-party system, where only one party is there, and you have people like, you know, Adam Putnam, like, you know, who I call him like Sugar Daddy, because he's all the way from the sugar industry from FP&L. It's like, you're not going to get that, because he who pays the piper picks the tunes. That's how it works, okay? So, for example, in my PAC right now, you know, I started this PAC called All About Florida. I got this one big schmuck to put in $2 million. His name is Philip Levine. The guy didn't ask any questions, just put in $2 million, didn't even care. But you know what? Until I understand and feel where I want to go with this, I'm going to put my own skin in the game. I'm fortunate enough, I made it all here, and if I want to spend it all here, I'm going to do that. To do what's right for the state of Florida. But it's funny, it comes down to, if you're taking big money from that group, you will be listening to that group, okay? And if you want to take the state in a direction with this great opportunity in renewable energy, you won't be listening to FP&L, and we'll change the culture, and we will change the oversight of how it's done. But it can't be done when there's one party in control. You won't be able to do it. Democrats won't be able to do it, and it's not going to happen because FP&L is firmly in control right now, I believe, in Tallahassee.
So we have one question from somebody in the audience here today. How do you balance the needs of a city to collect tax revenue with the needs of working folks to have access to affordable housing?
Thank you. It's a great question. Affordable housing. So, one of the big impetuses of this minimum living wage on Miami Beach was this. We have all this hotel industry, the whole hospitality industry, and for these people to live and work in Miami Beach, it's so expensive, they can't do it. It's hard for them to get to Miami Beach. You can imagine when you're coming from outside Miami Beach how hard it is to get there on public transportation. You spend a lot of money doing it. So my feeling was, hey, hotels, you're looking at affordable housing. I got a better idea. As opposed to the city of Miami Beach subsidizing the living quarters of your employees, how about if you pay them more? Isn't that miraculous? So that way you actually, because you're getting $700 or $800 a night for your rooms, why don't you pay them more? And if you pay them more, they'll be able to live in Miami Beach. But Miami Beach is a very unique situation because you can imagine we're an island. We don't have enough land. We're working on programs right now where we build garages, we actually build workforce housing on top of the garages. And we're going through a whole study of how to do that right now. I think it's crucial to do it, but we focus more on the minimum living wage at this point. But I gotta go back to Airbnb, and I'm sorry to say it, but the fact of the matter is that if you have an apartment or you have a house, and you normally would rent it for 12 months, and some middle class or working family would rent it, but now you can put it on Airbnb, and you can get hotel rates per night, guess what? That product is no longer available to a working class family. And if it is, it's gonna be at a much higher rate. And the inventory has now dropped. And that's part of the other reason of how we've seen in studies, Airbnb has increased the cost of housing in a lot of cities for workforce housing at this point.
Well, let's talk about healthcare, which seems to be up again in Washington today. So the most recent national survey by the United Healthcare Foundation ranks Florida in the bottom half of almost everything. But kind of the worst rankings were actually uninsured children. We were 45, and I think we only have 50 states at my last count, and we were 46 in the number of adults who remain uninsured because of the costs. And we also know there's at least 500,000 of us that are in that coverage gap because Governor Scott did not expand Medicaid. So in light of, should we get a democratically elected governor, in light of the fact that we probably still have a Republican-controlled Congress, do you see any room for movement to improve the situation for healthcare? How would you address that? What ideas do you have?
Listen, the bottom line is we know one thing. Prior to the Affordable Health Care Act, the healthcare system in our country was the emergency rooms, okay? And that's horrible for our country. No one said the Affordable Health Care Act was perfect. Matter of fact, the person that said it wasn't perfect the most and said it needed to be fixed was President Obama. So the fact is that we know it needs to be reformed, we know it needs to be changed, but bringing it down on a statewide level, I think that's even a little more important for this conversation, is that if you're building an organization in the state of Florida, and let's call it Team Florida, and we're trying to change all types of things and break all kinds of great companies here, and all kinds of great education, have clean water, and do all these wonderful things. You can't have hundreds of thousands of people that don't have health insurance. What kind of organization is that? It doesn't work. It's like a hole in your boat. It doesn't work. Florida has plenty of money. Florida is a resourceful state. So I believe that whoever is elected, God willing, to Democratic governor, that there's multiple ways for us to close that gap and make sure that all Floridians are covered. It's crucial, it's important. And that's part of creating the culture of what Florida is about. You know, just real quick about culture. When I got elected mayor of Miami Beach, it's kind of funny. So I get elected, and our city manager, Jimmy Morales, who's by the way the best city manager I've ever heard of, such an amazing guy, came in 4 months before me. And he said, you should come to the holiday party, Mayor. And I said, I'd love to. I get to the holiday party. Now, we have 2,000 employees. There's like 125 people there. I said, Jimmy, where is everybody? He said, I just found out they charge $25 a person to come to the holiday party. I said, Jimmy, oh my God, that's like a total culture killer. I said, it's horrible. I said, you gotta do this. We gotta invite everybody in the city, stop working, let's invite everyone to lunch, we'll have it at the convention center. And we did it. And we invited everyone to lunch. 2,000 employees. Now you can imagine what these people are thinking. They're like, who is this entrepreneur, successful guy? He's the mayor. He's like probably that guy from, from Wall Street, the movie. He's gonna tell us half are gonna be fired, the other half are gonna be working for half as much money. And we spoke to the employees, and I said to all of them, I said, listen, we're gonna have fun. This is about getting things done. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's just better, let's make sure we learn from the mistakes. This was a city that started at no, let's make it a city that starts at yes now. And I said, you call these residents customers, you call them residents, I call them customers. Now let me introduce you to one of your customers. I brought out Pat Wiley from the Heat, and Pat spoke to everybody. And then 4 months later we did it again, and we brought out Gloria D'Amelio stuff. And then 4 months later we brought out Pinball. Then we brought out Ray Allen. The point being is that we began to change the culture of the people that work in Miami Beach to make them feel excited, that they have purpose. The people that work in the state of Florida are missing purpose. They're missing that vision, they're missing that inspiration, that excitement of why they're working. But I think that comes to the entire state. It's about making everyone proud that they live in Florida, that it's not just about tourism, that we've created a culture of excellence, and everyone's excited to be calling themselves a Floridian. And you gotta have healthcare if you're part of Team Florida, that's for sure.
So climate change, you know an awful lot about that, it's a good subject. And cities have been largely left to deal with the effects of climate change. And you have been a leader in implementing costly climate change. I wouldn't say costly, say much needed on Miami Beach. Yes, but costly needed. Projects on Miami Beach. What do you think is the role of the state of Florida in adaptation and mitigation? And how do you see the future role of South Florida Water Management Division?
Thank you, Christine. You know, we didn't choose to be the poster child of sea level rise on Miami Beach. You know, the Mother Nature chose us. And we did what we had to do. And we had no playbook. It wasn't like you could go buy the book on how to make your city resilient if you live on the coast. There's no book. We started to write the book as we went along. We learned as we went. We didn't have all the answers. We had a lot of questions. But the bottom line is that the resiliency industry is a fantastic industry, meaning that Miami Beach happens to have got a lot of notoriety out of it, you know, but we should be owning that industry in the state of Florida to make our entire coastline as resilient as possible. We should be attracting the companies and the expertise of how to make yourself resilient if you're a coastal city. We didn't get any really help from the state of Florida. I mean, they did work on their roads. I had to fly out and try to get money out of them here and there, as you can imagine, but it's been very, very challenging. We've been doing it ourselves. We've been spending our own money. It's investing, not necessarily spending. But the problem is only going to get worse, so you got to be way ahead of it. And that's what we've chosen to do. You know, there are those that don't believe. I always say, if you're a non-believer in climate change, just come to Miami Beach on King Tide. I'll take you to a couple of different roads, and we'll convert you right there to see the water rise during a sunny day. And Al Gore came down. Matter of fact, you might have seen the movie documentary Before the Flood with Leonardo DiCaprio. If you haven't, see it. It's on iTunes. I'm in it. I play the mayor of Miami Beach. It's a very compelling role, and but this is something that's affecting all of us, and we have to invest in it. That's the key. I was asked on the Senate floor about 2 months ago, Senator Nelson. One of the senators, Senator Blumenthal, said, "Mayor, what do you think about Trump's wall?" And I said, "I believe we need a wall, but I believe we need a wall around the state of Florida to keep the water out, okay? And that's what we need." So.
I know we're getting close to the time, so
You're getting bored with me. You gotta go.
I know you have a concert, and so I'll just end on how you're going to get to the concert, and it'll also give you a few minutes to mix and mingle before you have to leave at 7:30. But public transportation. I have been looking at the same plans over and over again now for 10 years, and they look good to me. And every time I look at them, they look good to me, but somehow they never happen. So how can you explain to us what we can do both as cities, as counties, and to activate state funding for what looks like pretty nice public transportation plans between our cities and Miami-Dade County?
The first thing we can do is to elect a governor from South Florida, okay? Because until you live and experience our traffic for 30 or 40 years, you really don't care, okay? You don't care. You hear these South Floridians walk, and by the way, their offices are up in Tallahassee, they don't care, they come down here and they leave. They don't want to fund, they don't have this intense desire. So if you want attention, you got to put someone in Tallahassee from down here. That's really the bottom line. That's what I see. It's been incredibly frustrating. In the world we live in today, there's so much political grandstanding. There's so much fake internet stuff that you constantly see. We've been moving forward as fast as we can to have a light rail. Right? But then there are those that will come forward and start saying, it's terrible, it'll be the rail to nowhere, blah, blah, blah. People do things for political purposes. Well, the way the MPO is set up down here, it's a big county commission. So everybody is jockeying for their own area. No one's jockeying for South Florida, okay? Everyone's provincial thinking. No one is thinking about the region. I actually believe the MPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, should be made up of non-elected officials that should be appointed, that have a mission and move it forward and are not succumbing to internet pressure and pressure of their own group, because we're not thinking regionally. Because the money has to come from Tallahassee. And so this Senate hearing that I sat on with all the various senators, they asked me about infrastructure, because I was giving testimony. And I said, listen, the problem with infrastructure right now is that if the federal government had $1 trillion, they said, we have $1 trillion ready to go, we have all this cash. They couldn't put it out anywhere because the system is so broken, the red tape is so intense, the bureaucracy to get the federal money is so overwhelming that people's bandwidth don't last that long. They're already out of office, they don't care, they're gone, they're moving forward. We need to break the system in such a way that the money will flow to the local municipalities and the counties directly from Washington, somehow, some way. Because it's just being choked up at this point. But once again, it's all about who you elect. If you elect somebody or people that get things done, that are as impatient as ever, then you'll get things done. If you elect politicians that are used to sitting in meetings and are okay with bureaucracy and don't freak out because they don't care, then we'll be the same situation we're in today in South Florida. I'm a pretty impatient guy. Some people say too impatient, but I think that's what we need. We need impatience. We need to move forward, get things done. We are hosting the United States Conference of Mayors in June, by the way, for all of you that know, in Miami Beach. We have every mayor in America coming to Miami Beach for 4 days and 4 nights. We're very excited. Host mayor, we're the host city. Just to kind of give you a heads up, we'll be pretty excited with a lot of media attached to it. And I think former President Clinton's going to come. And we think President Trump is going to come. I know, well, he loves me. He loves me, you can imagine. So.
How can you tell the two apart?
Well, I just want to, on behalf of the Downtown Democrats and on behalf of the Miami Beach Democrats, I want to thank you very much for coming and joining us on a night that we know is busy for you. We appreciate it. Most of the people in this room are, I know most of the people in the room, at least from our side. And I can tell you we're pretty active voters and we evaluate things very carefully. And so we appreciate when candidates or potential candidates come and share time with us and share opinions and allow us to dig into issues. So thank you very much. I hope you have a few more minutes.
So when are you going to stop censoring people, Mayor Levine? Are you going to stop censoring people?
What's that?
Are you going to stop your online
Never censor.
censorship
Never
program?
censor.
You have a censorship list. You've admitted it in court. You're censoring people online. Are you going to stop doing that? Don't you think it's important? You're a political science major. After all, you should know what the Constitution's about. No? No, censorship is okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Are you going to censor your way to the governor's chair?
Can you stop?
Can you excuse me? You're in my way. Thank you. Okay.
I'll get that too.
Still? No comment, huh?
Do I look fancy?
Sorry, trying to get a picture. Yeah. You did
So
a
are you going
great
to stop
job.
polluting the water in
It was a
Biscayne Bay,
pleasure
Mayor
to
Levine?
meet you the first time. This is my first time.
Are you going to stop polluting the water
Yes,
in
it was
Biscayne
great.
Bay?
What would Rick Scott do?
It was wonderful.
You know what? He would pollute the water too. And then,
Okay, I'll get your
Okay.
you know what?
He's a man who doesn't.
At least Rick Scott would not waste public money having lawyers from the city sending out threat letters to the Miami Herald. This is not fake, Mayor Levine.
No, you're good.
Excuse me. So, have you guys found the millions of dollars that you guys lost?
I did it like a second.
I'll take it.
Have you found those $3 million yet? No? No, you haven't found the $3 million yet, huh? Just asking for a friend.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Rebecca, nice to meet you.
Angela. He called me Rebecca.